Yeah. What's going on, man?
Doing well, man. Can't complain.
I hear that. So let's jump right into it. I think there's a lot of artists out there who understand that you have to cut through social media and you can't just rely on your music a lot of times to do so because everybody's making music. So what makes you unique? And some artists just rely on content that's outside of the music realm to get them there. So they might do comedy, for instance. My question is, how do you diversify your content without getting boxed into a certain category of content? Because you want to be known as an artist, but if you start putting yourself out there as a comedian, folks might just see you as a comedian, and I think that's happened more times than not. So, what is your advice on that?
How do you not get boxed in as a? You're saying should they do comedy or something else? Or?
Well, I mean, the comedy is just an example, but it could be really anything.
Like, could they go do acting? Or?
Yeah, they could go do. They could make skits. They could be known as a plant dad or a plant mom. They're
right.
Their secondary content is
right.
So.
How do you not get boxed?
Yeah, man. I think that.
I guess you just do it early on, maybe. Like if you just mix it in frequently, like that's something you could do.
Mm-hmm.
There's the question of brand confusion. So this is a branding question.
Yes.
Should you brand yourself that way?
I think that's a struggle for a lot of artists.
It
today,
is.
to be honest.
It is. There's some people who would say that you should only post music content so that you don't confuse your brand. But I mean, you could get some more sponsors that way if you're like, let's say you like fitness too, and fitness and music. So you like post two of those. What you could do is make a separate channel if you wanted to. So you could make a separate Instagram or a separate TikTok or whatever, and you could post all your content there for that, and then keep all your music content on another page. That's one way to keep them separate that I'm thinking of. Because I'm trying to think of somebody.
So I want to push back a little bit on that because I don't know. That kind of seems counterproductive because I think the main reason a lot of artists are looking at other content mediums is because they want to, for one, niche down, but so they can scale up. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm just coming out presenting myself as a rapper, it's probably not likely unless I have sponsors or a big budget behind me that I'm going to cut through the noise like that, even if I'm gifted, even if I'm good. But if I come out as the rapper who likes healthy foods, who's very health conscious, who's always, incorporating, orange juice and, different types of foods you should be eating in my rap, then I think I might find a bigger audience and I might scale up quicker. So I don't know if separating the two would be the most beneficial versus finding a strategic way to marry the two so that folks don't just limit you to being the health conscious guy, but the health conscious artist, so to speak. And then once you get that exposure, that notoriety, then you just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to go about it. I mean, there's probably examples where both have worked.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like one clear-cut way with this.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to think of, like, the names are slipping my mind, but there's definitely been some examples of, like, somebody has one page and then they start a separate page or, like, another business, so to speak. Like, they have a separate business venture that they don't necessarily want their artist name to be tied to or whatever previous business they had. So that would be, like...
That makes sense.
To me, I'm kind of almost thinking of it as, like... Well, this is a branding, and then I also was branching into like acquisition. So if like Coca-Cola buys the Simply lemonade brand, right? Like Simply apple juice, Simply all that stuff, right? But they'll keep that brand separate, even though it's owned by Coke.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's more of an acquisition question than it's also branding too. But really just depends. Like, it really depends. I think you got to use some discernment on whether or not you should incorporate that into your brand, or you should make a separate Instagram page. But I mean, either one can work. I really don't have like a clear cut, like this is the way to go with it.
Yeah.
There's no one way to do that.
Yeah, I think the reason I posed the question is because, again, I think that kind of intimidates artists when they find out that, hey, nowadays it's way more about being unique and niching down than it is just you coming out and, you know, having a bunch of songs you think people are going to want to listen to. I think the most common example I see is an artist comes out and he finds out that he needs to diversify the content and he leans back on the comedy, you know, so, or, you know, funny skits and stuff like that. And I've actually seen, or we've actually seen in culture, a few people who they set out to do that, to be a musician. Then they brought out the comedy, and when they brought out the comedy, people actually wanted the comedy more than they wanted the music. And then they became comedians. You know what I'm saying? Now, for some of these people, they became, you know, well off. Country Wayne. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a pretty.
I didn't even know he wanted to do music.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He has music videos on YouTube and everything. But that's my point. Like, you never would have known. But he's sitting on millions in his. It
really depends.
Yeah,
it really depends. I know there's. Yeah, so there are some people who try to do like maybe news and hip hop, or they'll try to do like news and country music. I can't think of the guy's name, but he does like current events and he'll tie them into country music. But he'll make like a song about those current events.
Really?
And he'll also have his like original content that he does. So it's just like, you know, it's like funny and it's like a marketing play. And then he'll have his other music too. So yeah, that is one way to do it. And then there's the original guy who did that, which would be, you know, Weird Al Yankovic would be the original one who took popular songs, would make parody songs with them. So he is a comedian, but he was like being a musician with it. So yeah. I mean, there's ways to do both. Like we're saying, there's examples of both that you can find here. So
I can tell you. I can tell you.
I'll tell you, if you equally like both things, like if you equally like comedy and you equally like music, I mean, it's a win-win to me. Like if you like, I'm sure Country Wayne is perfectly happy being a comedian.
More than happy.
So he's, you know, if you're just a funny guy and that's what you like doing,
I
don't think he's like sad that, you know, his music didn't take off, but his comedy took off. Like he's fine.
Yeah, 100%. But I think I might be able to chime in just a little bit based on what I'm doing as an artist. Well, I think, and I hope this quote applies here, but I think perception is reality. And so when people perceive you over and over again in a certain light, of course they're going to say, oh, that's the comedian guy. You know what I'm saying? But and this is not, you know, a one size fits all or a, you know, prescription that's going to solve every single problem when it comes to this topic. But I think when you try to not only expose, you know, the comedian side of you, and we're using comedy for an example, comedian side of you over and over again, try to just as much like keep the music in front of them. You know what I'm saying? So people don't forget at least that, oh, no, he's an artist. You know what I'm saying? If you just giving me months and months of comedy content or whatever secondary content you're using, and I only get, you know, the music from you like once a quarter or once every other 6 months, it's going to be hard for me not to be like, oh, he's the comedian that just happens to be good at music too. Right. Versus, oh, he's a comedian and he's an artist. Yeah. And it's not even at that point, I might not even define you as an artist. I'm just going to say, oh, I just like him or I like her because of all she entails or because of all he entails. And I think at that point, it's like you become a personality almost. Yeah. You know, and so, or influencer. I think, you know, that's why we talk so much about, you know, becoming an influencer and doing all this other stuff online. But so that's just, you know, if any advice I have, that might be helpful. Yep. Yeah. So cool.